In a world where reflections lie and reality feels like a dream, Neo begins to question everything. Haunted by memories and offered a choice, truth or illusion, he steps toward freedom. As Thomas becomes Neo again and Trinity rediscovers her true self, their transformation becomes a rebellion. This isn't just a sequel, it's a mirror to our digital age, daring us to awaken. Because sometimes the most powerful act is choosing to be real. The Matrix Resurrections is a cinematic return to one of the most iconic and philosophically rich franchises in modern film history. Originally launched in 1999 by the Wachowskis, the Matrix series captivated audiences with its groundbreaking visuals, revolutionary action sequences, and deep existential themes. After the conclusion of the original trilogy with The Matrix Revolutions in 2003, many believed the story had reached its end. However, nearly 2 decades later, Lana Wachowski returned with The Matrix Resurrections 2021, breathing new life into the franchise and revisiting the philosophical questions that made the original so compelling. This new chapter is not just a sequel, it's a meta-commentary, a love story, a reimagining, and a reflection on the power of human connection. In this 4th installment, the narrative picks up with Thomas Anderson, once known as Neo, living a seemingly mundane and successful life as a video game designer. The twist: the games he's most known for are based on the events of the original Matrix trilogy, blurring the line between fiction and reality. Neo is plagued by dreams and visions that suggest something is not right. Memories of a past he can't fully remember but feels intimately connected to. This unsettling duality sets the stage for a journey that is as much about personal rediscovery as it is about resistance and revolution. The premise of The Matrix Resurrections is both familiar and disorientingly new. It acknowledges the legacy of its predecessors while daring to subvert expectations. The film offers a layered narrative that deals not only with digital control and simulation, but also with personal trauma, healing, and the resilience of love. Through characters both old and new, we are invited to question the nature of truth, freedom, and the systems that govern our lives. Reception to the film has been deeply divided. Some critics and fans praised its intellectual depth, emotional resonance, and boldness in rejecting conventional sequel formulas. Others were disappointed by its departure from the high-octane action and stylistic clarity of the original trilogy. Nevertheless, Resurrection stands out as a film that refuses to cater purely to nostalgia. Instead, it challenges viewers to engage in critical thought, to feel and to reflect. It asks not what The Matrix is, but why it exists and what it means for each of us today. Ultimately, this introduction sets the tone for a deeper exploration of the film's core ideas, the fragile boundary between reality and illusion, the power of choice and free will, the journey of identity, and the potential for transformation. Whether one sees the film as a triumphant return or a divisive continuation, there's no denying its ambition and depth. The Matrix Resurrections isn't merely a continuation of a story, it is a reawakening of its philosophical soul. A core element of The Matrix Resurrections is its philosophical investigation into the nature of reality. This theme, deeply rooted in the foundation of the original trilogy, takes on new dimensions in the 4th film. In a world where digital simulations have become increasingly immersive and ubiquitous in our daily lives, Resurrections challenges the audience to confront how we define what is real. The film reintroduces Neo as Thomas Anderson, a game developer who has unknowingly become trapped inside a new version of the Matrix, a system so advanced and insidious that its illusions are nearly indistinguishable from reality. The opening act of the film blurs fiction and reality, through a meta-fictional conceit. Thomas is famous for creating a video game trilogy called The Matrix, which is in fact a retelling of his own past as Neo, the messianic figure who once broke free from the original Matrix. His memories of this time have been carefully suppressed, and any attempts to recall them are dismissed by his therapist as symptoms of a mental breakdown. This clever narrative device transforms the concept of gaslighting into a world-building mechanism. Viewers are placed in the uncomfortable position of knowing the truth, while watching the protagonist question his own sanity, reflecting how easily systems of control can distort perception and undermine self-trust. Mirrors are a recurring symbol throughout the film, serving as portals, distortions, and visual metaphors for truth and illusion. They reflect not just physical appearances, but also internal dissonance. When Thomas looks into mirrors and sees glimpses of his true self, or distorted versions thereof, the audience is reminded that our sense of identity is both reflected and refracted by our environments. This aligns with postmodern philosophy, particularly Baudrillard's notion of simulacra, where representations replace and precede reality, making the original almost irrelevant. In this context, the Matrix is no longer just a simulation. It is reality, because it defines what people believe to be real. The analyst, who replaces the architect from the original trilogy, represents a shift in how reality is constructed and maintained. Unlike the architect's reliance on logic and balance, the analyst uses emotion, fear, and desire to keep individuals docile. He tells Neo that people no longer want freedom. They want comfort, certainty, and the illusion of choice. This chilling assertion critiques modern systems of surveillance capitalism, where data is harvested and manipulated to create echo chambers of belief, making people complicit in their own manipulation. The Matrix has evolved, not just technologically, but psychologically and sociologically. This raises a vital question. If a simulation is so convincing that it becomes indistinguishable from the real, does it matter whether it's real? The film suggests that it does, because what truly defines reality is agency. The difference between being awake and asleep is not just knowledge, but choice. Neo's journey is not merely about uncovering the truth, it's about reclaiming the power to act upon that truth. Similarly, Trinity's arc is about recognizing the falsity of the world she has been forced to inhabit and choosing to reject it, even at great personal risk. Ultimately, The Matrix Resurrections presents a sophisticated deconstruction of reality that resonates with our own world. In an age where digital experiences, social media, and virtual identities blur the line between the physical and the simulated, the film prompts us to reflect on how much of our lives are lived in versions of the Matrix. It challenges us to ask who benefits from our illusions and whether we are willing to confront the painful but liberating process of awakening. By emphasizing subjective perception and emotional truth, Resurrections pushes the franchise's central philosophical inquiry into new, timely territory, reminding us that the first step toward freedom is seeing the world as it truly is. Free will and the power of choice remain central philosophical pillars in The Matrix Resurrections, continuing a core theme from the original trilogy, but exploring it with greater emotional and psychological complexity. The iconic red pill versus blue pill dichotomy returns, once a simple metaphor for awakening versus ignorance, but this time it is framed in a more nuanced, layered narrative. The stakes of choice are no longer just about waking up to the truth of the Matrix. They're about choosing to engage with reality, to embrace pain and growth, and to assert agency even when the system is designed to erode it. Neo, or Thomas Anderson, as he is initially presented, is no longer the wide-eyed rebel of the original film. He is a man weighed down by trauma, haunted by fragmented memories and uncertain whether the truth is something worth pursuing. When offered the red pill again, it is not a moment of bold rebellion, but one of hesitation and emotional exhaustion. His reluctance speaks to the film's deeper message that the act of choosing truth over comfort is not a one-time decision, but an ongoing process that becomes harder the more we are hurt by the past. Neo's choice to reawaken is a triumph not of ideology, but of personal courage and emotional vulnerability. Trinity's character arc presents an even more profound exploration of choice. Now living under the identity of Tiffany, she leads a seemingly normal life as a wife and mother. Yet beneath this surface is a constant gnawing feeling that something isn't right. Her journey is not driven by external pressure, but by internal restlessness, a feeling of misalignment that builds until she can no longer ignore it. When she is finally confronted with the truth, her choice to embrace her identity as Trinity is not made out of logic, but from a deep emotional recognition of her own suppressed self. This reaffirms the idea that real choice is about more than having options. It's about having the freedom and clarity to recognize oneself in the face of imposed illusions. What Resurrections does exceptionally well is critique the illusion of choice in modern systems. The analyst, as the film's primary antagonist, embodies this critique. His version of the Matrix is not enforced through overt control, but through subtle psychological manipulation. People are made to feel that they are choosing their own paths, all while being nudged by algorithms and emotional conditioning toward behaviors that serve the system's needs. This echoes real-world concerns about social media, targeted advertising, and digital surveillance, where individual autonomy is undermined by unseen forces of influence and control. This version of the Matrix is more insidious because it does not provoke resistance. It encourages complacency by offering the illusion of freedom. In such a system, the act of truly choosing to break free, to question, to remember, is revolutionary. The film suggests that freedom isn't just about knowing the truth, but about making choices that defy comfort and control. Neo and Trinity's final act of reclaiming their agency together is portrayed as a radical affirmation of love, identity, and self-determination. In the end, The Matrix Resurrections asks us to reconsider what it means to choose. It is no longer a matter of picking a pill or accepting a truth, but a continual act of defiance against systems that benefit from our apathy. True choice, the film argues, is not made in moments of clarity, but in moments of doubt. It requires belief, courage, and sometimes the leap of faith that love demands. And in a world increasingly dominated by systems designed to decide for us, the most revolutionary act may be to choose again and again to be free. At its heart, The Matrix Resurrections is a story about identity, how it is formed, fractured, and reborn. This theme, while present throughout the original trilogy, receives deeper emotional resonance and philosophical development in this fourth installment. The film explores identity not as a static truth, but as a dynamic process shaped by memory, experience, emotion, and most powerfully, love. Through the journeys of Neo and Trinity, the narrative illustrates that transformation is not merely a return to one's former self, but a conscious evolution toward a more authentic self. Neo, or Thomas Anderson, begins the film as a man disassociated from his true self. His identity has been overwritten by the Matrix through both technological manipulation and psychological trauma. He is depicted as a successful game developer, yet he lives in a constant state of cognitive dissonance, haunted by inexplicable visions and emotions. These fragments of his former life, the life of Neo, serve as both a call and a curse. His transformation is not initiated by force, but by internal unrest, suggesting that the self cannot be fully erased, only obscured. As he begins to question his reality, he also begins to reclaim his identity, not by resuming who he was, but by integrating past and present into a more whole self. Trinity's journey from Tiffany back to Trinity is perhaps even more profound. Where Neo is searching, Trinity is hidden. She lives a suburban life defined by domestic roles, a mother, a wife, a woman who works on motorcycles as a hobby. Yet she feels the pull of something more. Her identity is not erased, but repressed, smothered beneath layers of expectation and conformity. Her transformation is catalyzed not by external coercion, but by emotional recognition. When she sees Neo and begins to feel a truth she cannot explain. The pivotal moment when she chooses to become Trinity again is one of the film's most powerful statements. That identity is not about fitting into roles assigned by society or systems, but about claiming the right to be who you truly are. The film also uses the metaphor of resurrection, literally and symbolically, to explore transformation. Both Neo and Trinity are resurrected by the machines, not as an act of mercy, but as a form of exploitation. Yet their rebirth becomes an opportunity for self-actualization. They are not simply restored to life. They are reborn with new insight, new strength, and a renewed sense of purpose. The resurrection motif extends beyond the characters to the narrative itself, which seeks to redefine what a sequel can be. Not a repetition, but a reimagining. In this way, the film parallels its characters' transformations with its own. Resurrections also confronts the societal constraints that shape identity. The analyst's matrix is designed to enforce conformity and emotional repression. It punishes deviation and rewards obedience. Tiffany is an avatar of this system, a character created to suppress Trinity's power by embedding her in a normative life she did not choose. The film's critique is clear. Societal roles, especially those imposed on women, are not neutral. They are mechanisms of control. Trinity's decision to break free from Tiffany is not just personal, it is political. It is an act of resistance against the structures that dictate who we are allowed to be. In a broader philosophical sense, the Matrix Resurrections argues that transformation is the essence of identity. We are not who we were. We are who we are becoming. Identity is not recovered like a lost object. It is reconstructed, reinterpreted, and reasserted. The courage to transform, to reject imposed narratives and forge new ones, is presented as the path to authenticity and liberation. By centering its narrative on characters who reclaim and redefine themselves, The Matrix Resurrections becomes a profound meditation on what it means to know oneself in a world designed to keep us asleep. It celebrates the painful, beautiful, and necessary act of becoming again and again, not who others want us to be, but who we choose to become. In conclusion, The Matrix Resurrections revisits the philosophical underpinnings of the original trilogy while offering a more emotionally grounded and introspective narrative. It takes the core themes that made the Matrix franchise iconic, such as the nature of reality, free will, and the questioning of identity, and expands upon them with a deeper, more personal exploration. This installment challenges traditional expectations by shifting its focus away from action-heavy sequences and immersing viewers in a thought-provoking reflection on control, liberation, and self-determination. While the action may not be as front and center as in the past, the film more than makes up for it with its emotionally complex and intellectually stimulating journey. It reminds us that sometimes the most impactful revolution is internal, one that occurs when we confront the illusions and systems that define our lives. The film's legacy doesn't just lie in continuing a beloved franchise, but in reshaping how we think about sequels. It pushes boundaries by being vulnerable, self-aware, and boldly deviating from the formulaic expectations many fans had. Resurrections demonstrates that a continuation of a story doesn't have to simply follow in the footsteps of its predecessors. Instead, it can become an introspective commentary on the very nature of storytelling, legacy, and the role of media in our lives. For all its metaphorical depth and philosophical inquiry, the film's ultimate challenge is in its invitation to the audience. What would you choose if you could reshape your reality? In a world designed to keep you comfortable, what does true freedom really mean? The story asks us to reflect not just on the journey of the characters, but on our own lives and the choices we make every day. As we step back and take in all that The Matrix Resurrections offers, it's clear that the film is much more than just a continuation of a story. It's an invitation to open our eyes and awaken to the deeper questions about life, identity, and the power we have to shape our own destinies. And if you're as intrigued by these thought-provoking themes and the questions they raise as I am, I'd love for you to join the conversation over on my channel, Flixor. On Flixor, we delve deep into films, series, and stories that explore not only entertainment, but also the bigger philosophical, emotional, and social questions they bring to the table. Whether it's unpacking the latest sci-fi blockbuster or diving into a hidden gem that challenges our perception of reality, Flixor is your destination for analysis, commentary, and insightful discussions. You can expect in-depth reviews, critical breakdowns, and plenty of space for engaging conversations with fellow film lovers. So if you enjoy reflecting on movies that challenge and inspire, don't miss out. Subscribe to Flixor and become part of a community that loves to analyze, explore, and push the boundaries of what we watch. Let's keep the conversation going. What do you think The Matrix Resurrections ultimately says about the power of choice, the nature of identity, or the control that systems have over us? I'd love to hear your thoughts and interpretations. After all, they matter just as much as the film's own message.